Greater than 70%. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. It's a single figure that points to a massive, tectonic shift happening right now in one of the world's most contested auto markets. It's basically the sound of a 40-year-old fortress getting its walls breached. So what on earth does it represent? It represents this, the slice of the pie that Chinese brands have carved out in Thailand's new energy vehicle sector. For decades, Southeast Asia, ASEAN, was a locked-down stronghold for Japanese automakers. I mean, it was their turf. But that fortress, it's now under a siege unlike anything in its history.
And that's the core of what we're breaking down today. The fortress under siege, how China's EVs are challenging Japan's dominance in ASEAN. We're going to get into the mechanics of this takeover, look at who the key players are, and then forecast what this all means for the future of cars in the region.
So here's our roadmap. First, we need to really understand the scale of Japan's legacy dominance. Then, we'll dig into the policy moves that basically kicked the door open. After that, we'll deconstruct China's price and tech advantage and see how it's playing out on the ground in Thailand and Vietnam. And we'll wrap up by defining the new rules of the game. To really get what's happening now, you have to appreciate what was. For 40 years, the ASEAN auto market wasn't just a market for Japan. It was an industrial fortress, built on massive supply chains and brand loyalty that felt, well, permanent.
You can see the progression pretty clearly. They moved in during the 80s, turned the region into a global production hub by the 2000s, and by the early 2020s, they had more than 90% market share in places like Thailand. It looked like total, unshakable control. So, what changed?
Well, the catalyst was strategic government action. You had national policies pop up that were designed not just to nudge people into EVs, but to fundamentally rewire the market itself. This created openings for new challengers who were ready for a massive tech shift.
And the best example of this is Thailand's EV 3.5 policy. Now, this isn't just some simple tax credit. It's a full-blown strategy designed to do two things at once: get consumers to buy EVs and force companies to build them locally. The policy is pretty clever, right? It's pulling multiple levers. You've got rebates for consumers to spark immediate demand. You've got lower import duties to make it easier for new brands to get in the game. But the real kicker is the local production mandates. By 2027, for every one EV a company imports, it has to build 3 in Thailand. This is a very deliberate play to build a domestic EV ecosystem from the ground up.
So that policy created the opening, but it was the Chinese automakers who were perfectly positioned to rush through it. They showed up with this powerful 1-2 punch of aggressive pricing and advanced tech that the old guard, built around the internal combustion engine, just wasn't ready for.
I mean, the difference in what you get for your money is just striking. You compare a classic incumbent like the Toyota Alphard with a challenger like the XPeng X9. The Alphard gives you proven, reliable, gas-powered engineering. The X9, on the other hand, gives you an intelligent cockpit with local language support, 800-volt fast charging, modern battery tech, and often for a lower price. For a new generation of buyers in ASEAN, that technology gap is a really big deal. And that price advantage really comes down to the supply chain, especially batteries. China has the lowest cost in the world to build battery cell capacity because its supply chain is so mature and vertically integrated. Now, Thailand is a bit more expensive, but its government incentives are specifically designed to close that gap, making it a super attractive place for Chinese EV and battery makers to set up shop.
Which brings us right to our first case study, Thailand. You can think of this market as ground zero. It's where the siege on Japan's fortress is at its most intense, and it's where the new rules of the auto industry are being written in real time.
And that policy we talked about, it is translating directly into investment. Big players like China's BYD and Korea's Hyundai are already building massive production plants. BYD's new factory, for instance, is planned to crank out 150,000 cars a year. That's a serious commitment to building cars right there in the region. And the results? They're stark. In just a few short years, the Japanese share of the Thai market has dropped from over 90% to around 80%. That 10% slice of the market has been almost entirely captured by Chinese brands. This isn't a slow erosion, it's a rapid seizure of market share.
Okay, now let's shift gears to our second case study, which tells a different but just as important part of this story. Vietnam is a real outlier. It's a market defined by explosive growth, but also by some really significant risks for anyone playing there. A lot of our analysis here is based on a big report from PwC, their ASEAN 6 e-readiness report. And they really nail Vietnam as the region's most dynamic and also its most volatile market. 102%. That's the year-over-year growth in EV deliveries for Vietnam's homegrown champion VinFast back in 2023. I mean, that kind of growth is just off the charts. It's driven by government support and a lot of national pride. But it's also hiding a pretty serious problem. And here's the problem: 42%. That's how many current EV owners in Vietnam said they would actually consider switching back to a gas-powered car for their next purchase. That is a huge reversion risk, one of the highest in the whole region. And it tells you there's a big disconnect happening in that market. So what's driving it? It really comes down to the ownership experience. A staggering 62% of those unhappy owners pointed to maintenance costs being way higher than they expected. This is a crucial lesson. Winning the first sale is only half the fight. If the long-term cost of ownership doesn't deliver, that hypergrowth can slam on the brakes really fast.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? The battle for ASEAN isn't being fought on the old terms of just mechanical reliability and brand history anymore. There's a whole new playbook for how you win this market.
And these are the new rules. First, you have to align with national policy and use those incentives and mandates to your advantage. Second, you absolutely have to master the battery supply chain to control your costs and technology. Third, you've got to win the software and connectivity race. That's what modern buyers want. And finally, as we saw in Vietnam, you have to solve the total ownership experience to build real, lasting loyalty. This all leads us to one final critical question. If you're one of the legacy Japanese automakers, what's the bigger strategic risk today? Is it protecting your profitable gas engine business, even if it crushes your margins? Or is it failing to pivot to EVs fast enough and basically just handing over the keys to the kingdom you spent 40 years building? Their answer is going to define the next decade.